The last thing I saw wasn't the jagged rocks rushing up to meet me. It wasn't the grey sky spinning out of control. It was her face. It was the face of my beautiful 24-year-old daughter, Emily, the girl I had nursed through fevers, the girl whose hand I was holding just seconds before. I saw her eyes. They weren't panicked. They weren't scared. They were dead calm. And then I felt the shove. It wasn't a slip. It was a hard, calculated push against my chest. I reached out for my husband, Arthur, trying to steady myself, but she pushed him too. 2 violent shoves, and then gravity took over. The fall felt like it lasted a lifetime. I remember screaming her name, Emily, hoping it was a mistake, hoping she would reach down and grab us, but she just watched. We hit the ledge 20 feet down. It wasn't the bottom of the canyon. Thank God for the dense brush and the snowdrift that had accumulated on the outcrop. I hit the ground with a sickening crunch. The world went white with pain. My leg was shattered. My ribs felt like broken glass inside my chest. I tried to gasp for air, but my lungs wouldn't work. I lay there in the dirt, the taste of blood in my mouth, listening to the wind howl. Then I felt a hand grip my wrist. It was weak, trembling, but it was there. I turned my head. Arthur was lying next to me. His face was covered in blood from a gash on his forehead. His eyes were wide with terror, fixed on the cliff edge above us. He squeezed my hand, hard, and then he whispered the 3 words that saved our lives. Pretend we're dead. I wanted to cry out. I wanted to moan in pain, but Arthur's eyes were pleading with me. Don't move, he hissed, barely audible. Don't breathe. She's looking. I froze. I let my body go limp, mimicking the broken dolls I used to buy for her. I stared blankly at a rock, holding my breath until my chest burned. From 20 feet above, I heard the crunch of hiking boots on gravel. Then, the beam of a flashlight swept over us. It lingered on Arthur's bloody face. It lingered on my twisted leg. I prayed she wouldn't see the rise and fall of my chest. I prayed she wouldn't see the tear leaking out of the corner of my eye. Well, a voice called out. A male voice. It was Mark, her fiancé, the man we had welcomed into our home. Then I heard my daughter. Her voice wasn't shaky. It wasn't the voice of a grieving child. It was annoyed. They're not moving, Emily said. It's a straight drop. Even if they survived the impact, the cold will finish them tonight. Let's go. We have a timeline. A timeline. She didn't call 911. She didn't scream for help. She had a timeline. The boots crunched away. The engine of our family SUV started up and faded into the distance. They left us there to freeze. The ask. Before I tell you how we managed to crawl out of that canyon and the horrific discovery we made when we finally got back to civilization, I have a small favor to ask. If you believe that betrayal creates the strongest survivors, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach people who need to be reminded to trust their instincts. Also, I want to know, where are you watching from today? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Now let's go back to the snow. When the sound of the car engine finally faded, Arthur let out a ragged breath. Margaret, he choked out. Can you move? I tried to sit up and screamed. My right leg was useless. The pain was blinding. It's broken, Arthur. I can't walk. We can't stay here, Arthur said, struggling to his knees. The temperature is dropping. If we stay on this ledge, we die. And if we die, she wins. That thought was the only thing that gave me strength. She wins. Emily wanted the inheritance. She wanted the business. We had found the discrepancies in the accounting books 3 days ago. We thought it was a mistake. We brought her on this hike to have a gentle conversation, to offer to help her fix it. We thought she was just incompetent. We didn't know she was a thief, and we certainly didn't know she was a killer. The old hunting cabin, I whispered. It's a mile down the ridge. We crawl, Arthur said, and we did. For 6 hours we dragged ourselves through the snow and sharp rocks. Arthur, with a concussion, pulled me when I couldn't pull myself. We left a trail of blood in the snow, but the fresh powder covered our tracks. We reached the cabin just as the sun was setting. It was abandoned, cold and dusty, but it had a wood stove and, crucially, a first aid kit left by hunters. We splinted my leg with firewood. We bandaged Arthur's head. We huddled together under moth-eaten blankets, shivering not just from the cold, but from the shock. "We need to call the police," I said, my teeth chattering. "There's an emergency radio in the back closet." Arthur grabbed my arm. "No." "What do you mean, no? They tried to kill us." "Think, Margaret," Arthur said. His voice was cold, harder than I had ever heard it. "If we call the police now, Emily gets arrested. Maybe. Or maybe she claims it was an accident. Maybe she claims we slipped. It's her word against ours. And she has our money. She can hire the best lawyers. So what do we do?" Arthur limped over to the dusty table where he had left an old iPad years ago for playing music. He plugged it into a solar charger. "We watch," Arthur said. "We have cameras in the house. The cloud account is linked to this tablet. I want to see what they do when they think we're dead. I want to know exactly how deep this goes. The ghosts in the machine." The tablet flickered to life. We logged into the smart home app. The screen showed our living room. It was warm. The fire was crackling. And there they were. Emily and Mark walked into the frame. They weren't crying. They weren't calling the police to report a tragic accident. Mark was opening a bottle of Dom Perignon, the bottle Arthur had been saving for our 30th anniversary. "To the cliff," Mark laughed, clinking his glass against hers. "And to gravity." Emily took a sip, smiling. A smile I had never seen before. It was predatory. "I told you it would be easy. Dad always trusted me too much." He was soft. I watched, tears streaming down my face, as my daughter kicked off her boots and put her feet up on my coffee table. "What about the bodies?" Mark asked. "When do we report them missing?" "Tomorrow morning," Emily said casually. "We'll say they went for a sunset hike and never came back. We'll play the worried children, cry a little for the cameras. The search and rescue team won't find them until spring when the snow melts. By then the animals will have done the work for us." Arthur gripped the edge of the table so hard the wood cracked. "And the will?" Mark asked. "Already taken care of," Emily said. "I swapped the pages in the safe last week. Everything goes to me. The house, the life insurance, the business. We're rich, babe. We're finally free of them." She stood up and walked over to the mantel. She picked up a framed photo of the three of us, taken at her graduation. She looked at it for a second. Then she threw it into the fireplace. I watched the glass shatter. I watched my own face burn. "You're right, Arthur," I whispered. "The police aren't enough." Arthur looked at me. "Tomorrow is Sunday. What did she say about the timeline?" We turned the volume up. "We'll hold the memorial service on Tuesday," Emily was saying. "Quick and painful. We need to get the death certificates fast so we can access the accounts. I'll invite the whole board of directors. A sad, grieving daughter plays well with the shareholders." "Tuesday," Arthur said. He looked at his watch. Then he looked at me. "That gives us 48 hours to heal," he said. "And to plan," I added. We weren't parents anymore. We were ghosts. And ghosts have a very specific job: to haunt the people who killed them. "She wants a memorial service?" Arthur said, a dark smile forming on his bloody face. "Let's give her one she'll never forget." We didn't call the police. Instead, Arthur picked up the emergency radio and tuned it to a frequency that didn't go to 911. It went to his brother, a man who had served in special forces and who hated Emily with a passion. "Uncle Mike," Arthur whispered into the mic. "Are you there? We have a situation. And bring the heavy-duty painkillers. We have a funeral to crash." Uncle Mike didn't ask questions when he arrived at the cabin 3 hours later. He saw my shattered leg, Arthur's bloody head, and the cold, hard look in our eyes. He simply loaded us into his jeep, handed us heavy-duty painkillers, and drove us down the mountain not to a hospital, but to his safe house on the edge of town. "The police are looking for you," Mike said, checking his rear-view mirror. "Emily filed the report this morning. She's playing the part perfectly, sobbing on the news, pleading for anyone with information to come forward." "Let her perform," Arthur said, staring out the window. "Every lie she tells just digs the grave deeper." We spent the next 24 hours in agony. My leg was set by Mike's old army medic friend. It throbbed with a rhythm that matched my heartbeat, but the physical pain was a distraction. It kept me from thinking about the reality. My daughter, the baby I held in my arms, had looked me in the eye and pushed. Tuesday morning arrived, the day of the memorial service. "Are you sure you can do this?" Mike asked, handing me a pair of crutches. "We can just send the video evidence to the cops. You don't have to face her." "Yes," I said, standing up. "I do. She needs to see us. She needs to know that we survived her." We didn't dress in black. We didn't clean the blood off Arthur's forehead. We didn't hide the bruises. We wore the same torn, dirty clothes we had fallen in. We were the evidence, the funeral. Our house, the house Emily thought she now owned, was packed. Cars lined the driveway. The board of directors was there. Our neighbors were there. Mike drove us to the service entrance around the back. He had disabled the perimeter alarm remotely. We knew this house. We built it. We knew the blind spots. We slipped into the basement server room. It was directly beneath the great room where the service was being held. We could hear the murmur of the crowd through the floorboards. We could hear the organ music. Arthur sat down at the main console. He bypassed the security lockout Emily had installed. He was the one who wrote the code for the company's security software. Emily never stood a chance against him. "I'm in," Arthur whispered. "I have control of the audio and the projector." On the monitors, we saw the live feed of the room upstairs. There she was. Emily stood at the podium, dressed in a modest black dress, clutching a tissue. Mark stood behind her, looking solemn and supportive. They looked like the perfect grieving couple. "My parents," Emily choked out, wiping a fake tear, "were my world. They taught me everything I know about kindness, about integrity. To lose them both, in such a tragic accident, it feels like my heart has been ripped out." The crowd sniffled. People were nodding sympathetically. "They went for a hike to enjoy nature," Emily continued, her voice trembling, "and nature took them. I only hope that in their final moments, they knew how much I loved them." "Now," Arthur said. He hit the enter key. The resurrection. Upstairs, the giant projection screen behind Emily flickered. The slideshow of happy family memories vanished. The room went silent as the video feed from Sunday night appeared. It was the high-definition footage from our living room camera. The audio boomed through the surround sound speakers, drowning out Emily's gasp. "To the cliff," and "to gravity." The crowd gasped. On screen, Emily and Mark were clinking champagne glasses. "I told you it would be easy," the on-screen Emily laughed. "Dad always trusted me too much. He was soft." In the great room, the real Emily froze. She looked at the screen, then at Mark. The color drained from her face. She stepped away from the podium, but the microphone picked up her panic. "Turn it off," she hissed at Mark. "Cut the power." But the video kept playing. "What about the bodies?" On-screen Mark asked. "The cold will finish them tonight," on-screen Emily replied. "We'll say they went for a sunset hike. We're rich, babe. We're finally free of them." The murmurs in the crowd turned into shouts. The board members were standing up, looking horrified. "This is a fake!" Emily screamed, her voice shrill and desperate. "Someone hacked the system. This is AI, it's not real." "It looks real enough to me," a voice boomed from the back of the room. The double doors swung open. Arthur and I stood there. The silence that fell over the room was absolute. We looked like nightmares. I was leaning heavily on my crutches, my leg in a splint. Arthur had a bandage wrapped around his head, dark with dried blood. Our clothes were shredded. We limped down the center aisle. The crowd parted for us like the Red Sea. They stared at us in horror and awe. Emily looked at us. Her eyes bulged. She started to shake. She wasn't looking at her parents. She was looking at her victims. "Mum?" she whispered. "Dad?" "You missed," Arthur said. His voice was calm, carrying through the silent room. No, you're dead," Emily stammered, backing away until she hit the podium. "I saw you fall. You're dead." "We pretended," I said, stopping 10 feet from her. "Just like you're pretending to grieve." "It was Mark," Emily screamed, pointing a trembling finger at her fiancé. "He made me do it. He pushed you. I tried to stop him." Mark's jaw dropped. "What? You psycho, it was your idea. You planned the timeline." They started screaming at each other, tearing each other apart right there on the altar of their own greed. Arthur nodded to Uncle Mike, who was standing by the door. Mike opened it. and 4 police officers walked in. We had sent them the video an hour ago. They were just waiting for the signal. Emily Vance, Mark Sterling, the lead officer said, pulling out handcuffs. You are under arrest for 2 counts of attempted murder in the 1st degree. Emily didn't fight. She collapsed. She fell to her knees, sobbing. Real tears this time. Tears for herself. Mum, please, she cried as they cuffed her. I'm sorry. I was confused. Don't let them take me. I'm your daughter. I looked down at her. I remembered the little girl in the tutu. I remembered the teenager who wanted to be a doctor. I remembered the woman who pushed me off a cliff. My daughter died on that mountain, I said softly. I don't know who you are. The aftermath. They dragged her away. The guests were stunned into silence. The memorial service was over. Arthur and I sat on the steps of the altar holding hands. We were alive. We had our home. We had our business. But as I looked around the empty room, I realized something. Emily was right about one thing. Nature had taken something from us. We survived the fall. We survived the cold. But we didn't survive the betrayal. We sold the company a month later. We sold the house. We moved to a small cottage by the ocean, far away from cliffs and mountains. Arthur and I don't talk about Emily. We don't visit her in prison. We just sit on our porch, watching the waves crash against the shore, grateful for the breath in our lungs. But every night, before we go to sleep, Arthur checks the locks, and I check the cameras. Because we learned the hard way that the most dangerous monsters aren't hiding in the dark. They're the ones you invite into the light. Thank you for listening to our story. Now I have a difficult question for you. Emily is currently serving 25 years to life. She writes me letters every week, begging for forgiveness, claiming she has found God, claiming she has changed. She wants me to visit. My question to you is, if your child tried to kill you for money, could you ever forgive them? Or is some blood too toxic to keep? Tell me your honest thoughts in the comments below. And if this story reminded you to trust your gut, please share it with someone you love. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of survival and justice. Until next time, stay safe and watch your back.